So here's a question for you. What's the connection between Kenneth Grant, Michael Bertio, the tarot, magic mirrors, and spiders? Tricky one, isn't it? Magic mirrors are a very powerful technique of scrying and gaining spiritual and magical knowledge. And it's used extensively by Michael Bertio and Kenneth Grant and people who work in these lodges. And they use these magic mirrors. In a previous video I spoke about how you have two mirrors and prepare one. And it's the energy between those two mirrors that actually creates the thing you want to look at. Now, Kenneth Grant in Outside the Circles of Time says that this book in particular is also a magic mirror, and it's about the in-betweenness between two things that creates the energy that you want to look at. One way you can look at these things is Aleister Crowley's classic equation, 0 equals 0, 2 equals 0 rather. This whole idea of duality, and it's not duality in the sense of good and evil or any kind of Gnostic thing. It's this duality that finds unity between the two things, that bring them together to find something new. Now, there are other kind of magic mirrors, and if you haven't made a magic mirror using the ways I suggested with the two mirrors, there are other ways as well. And we're going to use the tarot for this, and the two cards that and basically what happens is, in the opening the key spread, there's an interesting technique called pairing, which you kind of do after counting and analysing the cards. So it starts off the two outside cards will work in. Not much is said about pairing, and the reason is because it's a powerful magical technique that's at work here, and this is the technique. What you do is you take two cards, and it's about the energy between the two cards. Now, I picked two cards that are really powerful ones that illustrate this whole thing, and here the two are. You have the High Priestess and the Moon card. Now, there's an interesting ambiguity between the High Priestess and the Moon card, especially for people who start to read tarot, because, of course, they think the Moon card is the Moon, where in fact it's Pisces. And the High Priestess is actually the card to do with the Moon. This ambiguity, this netty, this kind of thing that goes on between these two cards is perfect in illustration. So it's the energy between the two cards. One way you can do it is like this, or it's between the cards. Now, I picked these two cards in particular because they go to the heart of the Typhonian system. The Moon is the 29th tunnel, Cagliostro. And the High Priestess is on the Tree of Life. She is the central pillar. She goes from Tiphereth through to Keter. So she goes through the Darth and all that supernal kind of thing. She goes right to the top. She's actually a representation of the Gnostic Mass as well. So she's beyond the veil, as you can see in the card as well. We also have this veil here, this illusion, deception that's going on in the Moon card too. So when you actually scry with these two cards, and you can do it astrally as well, you can just visualize the cards and see where it takes you. Now, the interesting thing is that there's a lot of numerology that you can analyze with these cards. I'm not going to go into it, but you can. That kind of suggests that, Kenneth Grant talks about the magic and rituals that he did in order to find out certain things. And there's one particular grimoire called the Book Okbish, or Book of the Spider. And the Book of the Spider is found in the 29th tunnel, Cagliostro, and it is the basis of this book, the Ninth Arch. Now, the Ninth Arch, the whole of the book, the Ninth Arch, is about the Book Okbish. You can do all the kind of weird and wonderful rituals he does, because most of his books are actually about preparation to reveal the Book Okbish. So you can do it this way, and if you go through this way, you're going to find some interesting things. There are other parallels in the magical systems. Crowley in particular, he created Liber 231. And the thing about Liber 231, it's 231 is the number of permutations of paired cards of the 22 letters of the alphabet, which therefore equate to the 22 major cards. So there's 231 permutations of magical mirrors, if you like. So that's a pretty big tall order to go through them. But if you have a scryer or someone who's very good at scrying and working in pairs, which is probably a good idea actually in these things, someone to sort of hold a space or kind of correct the other person to see what's in there as well. So this is real scrying. This is not a trivial kind of exercise. There are kind of ways that tarot schools teach people to use the High Priestess, because that's probably a better example. It's to sort of you either go through the card backside or from the backside and go through them, imagine, visualize the whole sort of thing. But this way here, you're actually generating the space between them is a thing that you're generating that's creating something new and can explore. And in the 29th path, as I say, is the spider. So now I hope that as tarot readers and magicians as well, because they don't necessarily know these kind of techniques work this way, you can just do extraordinary things and take your own knowledge and expertise and insight into magic and spiritual practices to a whole new level.